Okay, we're live. Just give it a second. Just getting ready now. Coming live to you from Melbourne, Australia for Black Scissors. Say thank you very much to Robert Stevens for organising the event. Really appreciate it. It's been great to get involved with Black Scissors, and for myself personally, to travel both to Malaysia to work with my particular teacher in Black Scissors, Win Lee, and also had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with Robert Stevens and also Fan Su Lee, which is really awesome. So one of China's best bonsai artists. So today I'm going to be working on an English elm, which I'll show you in a second. I'm actually going to be using my computer screen, but we'll be able to get some close-up photos. Hopefully my partner's around, so she'll be able to take some photos and post it up on the comments feed. Hey Joshua and Gerard, it's good to see the Australians getting involved. Guys, if you feel like it, get up, get a tree, go live and join in the Black Scissors event. So let's go have a look at the tree. So this is the tree I'm going to be working on here. It's a Yamadori. It's a English elm. So this particular variety is a little bit harder to work with just because of the wiring. And I've gone ahead and done a little bit of wiring in advance because the last thing you guys want to do is just see me wire for 2 hours. So I'll use my computer screen. We'll go up and have a look at the tree. So you can see it's got some nice twists and turns in the tree here. I've actually put some wire in it. I'm actually going to be changing quite a lot of this tree today. I'd thought about doing a couple different things, but at the end of the day, I reckon I'm going to go for something that's a little bit easier for myself to manage in the backyard. Sorry, I'm just adding the power cables, otherwise I'll lose power. So there was the opportunity to look at, for example, a couple different things. I could have left the tree just as it is. It's got quite a lot of character as it is. Second option I had for myself was to actually chop off this part of the tree. And this would have been really common, and a very common thing to do in Australia, and very common across the world. The first thing I want to do is chop off this branch, and if you disappear this branch, I'll see if I can grab something. If we get this, for example, chuck this in here, you can see there's actually a really fairly good tree in there. I can imagine the nice tree coming down this way here. That's one of the things that we could have done with this tree. Yeah, supporting Australians, mate. The other thing I could have done, which is also an option, and I'll be honest, I haven't looked at this tree really much at all. I grabbed it, it's been sitting in the backyard, haven't thought about it. So another thing I could do, we could go into a full cascade, or semi-cascade like this. It's got a nice crown here with this big bulge that was at the top. It's got the bottom piece. You know, imagine this is quite heavy now. We could have gone into a cascade like this. But dealing with such a heavy cascade isn't a great thing in your backyard because I'm not getting any younger. We could have gone semi-cascade like this. It would have been a really nice tree. But I think at the end of the day, for myself, I think what I'm going to do is actually turn it up on its head, and we're going to take advantage of a lot of the movement in the trunk. So what we're going to do, turn this around. Get this up here. All of a sudden now, you can see those twists and turns in the tree coming out. So if I get it at the right angle, all of a sudden now you can see the tree twisting and turning all the way through. So for myself, this viewing angle is a lot better. Whereas previously, say, I would end up with a very traditional triangle. You'll see here Robert Stevens talking about a very traditional triangle tree. And that's what I really want to try and push away from. With this particular tree, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to take advantage of this twist and turn. But then I've got to think, What about this bit at the top? Most people chop that off when they're collecting Yamadori. For myself, I'm thinking I'm going to keep it because it adds real style to the tree. It's something a little bit different, but I am going to manipulate it. I'm going to do something probably a little bit extreme. I'm actually going to V-cut it later on. Hopefully we get through the process. If not, I'm going to end up with a big jib. So what we're going to do is we'll bring the camera around. What I'm actually going to do, in this section here, I'm going to do a V-cut. And I am going to attempt, and I'm going to say attempt, because this is what I'm trying to do, is I'm going to attempt to lower this branch. So I'm going to attempt this big branch to bring it down here and have the whole tree moving this direction here. So I've got this nice twist and turn, and then the top branch drop down. So we're going to get started. Okay, so let's grab some tools. So I'm going to teach you some of the things that I learned during my apprenticeship with my teacher. So first thing for me in bonsai is, first of all, to strip out what you don't want. A lot of the time, people will just go into a tree and they'll sit there and go, what should I be doing? And they're not quite sure about it. For myself, the first thing is just get rid of anything that just doesn't feel right. If it doesn't feel right, it just doesn't belong. So for myself, what does that mean? So for example, in this part of the tree here, we can see this thickness of the branch. It's actually getting quite on, and the flow through the tree is working because we're going from thicker to thinner. But then we move up towards the tree, and in some spots we might get duplication of branching, and we don't want that duplication because it's going to thicken up. In addition to that, there's going to be some areas, for example, in the back here, where I've got little tiny branches, and I'm just going to strip them out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and we'll see what the tree looks like after. So we'll just strip out all these little ones here. The other thing I'm going to do is strip out a lot of the branches in the centre here, because they're not necessary and they hide the tree. So for example, a lot of this in here, I want to see this unique structure in the middle. There's no point in having all these twists and turns if you're going to hide it with your branching. So I'm going to strip out some of these branches up the top here. I did wire a little bit of it in advance, just so you didn't have to watch me for an hour just doing wiring, which is pretty boring. And I know I was watching Martin Walters before. He's working on a pine, I think, right at the moment, and it was really good to see him doing some of that wiring in advance. For myself, this is actually, for a demonstration, it's a little bit of a challenging tree. The reason why it's challenging for me in a way is because this particular variety of English elm has really unique bark. So I'm going to crack this off and come and show you. So this is the bark here. So you can imagine when you're doing your wiring, the second you put your wire over, I'll grab something. So we'll get this a bit oversized. We wrap the wire, and as we're wrapping, you can see the second you grab it, you start ripping away all the bark. So that's one area of it, sort of challenge, because this bark just comes across and just starts ripping off. All of a sudden, you can imagine I've spent some time on that, I've lost all the character of that bark. Ending up with bark everywhere. So moving on, still stripping out some of this tree. I am going to keep a little bit more than expected. The reason for that is a lot of time I see, especially in beginners, and I see a lot of people in bonsai straight away go in and just cut everything off. I like to try and avoid that. I'd rather see something there and have growth happening in the tree, and you will find your bonsai will develop a lot better. For myself, pretty much we're going through autumn at the moment, and I did strip out the leaves of this tree, mainly just to save time, but the whole tree was essentially going into dormancy. So we're just working through and cutting back a lot of this tree at the moment. I'm just getting rid of anything spare. So anything down low, anything I feel there's not good taper in the tree, I'm just going to cut it off and get rid of it. So a lot of these double branches are just going to disappear. This type of stuff here, I've got a branch here that's sticking out. So instead of cutting it off, I'm just going to tear. And this is something we forget to do. Everyone at the moment is relying very heavily on electrical tools. I won't lie, I've got some electrical tools here because I'm going to have a go at this branch here later on. We're just going to strip the bark off it for now. But getting that cracking and that really violent movement or violent action in the tree, I think is quite important. I think it's something in Australia here we're particularly losing. And it was something I learned through my time with my teacher Win, and also my time with Fan Su Li in China, is the fact that you should take advantage of the grain of the wood and start ripping instead of trying to use machine tools to do what you want it. Okay, so we're getting close to getting rid of a lot of stuff here. Okay, so we've gotten rid of a lot of that extraneous wood that I don't want. So the next part is moving forward. When it comes to bonsai, a lot of people just get in there and start doing stuff without any particular direction. You know, I'm going to end up with no voice after this. So for myself, in my particular studies in Malaysia, I'd learned from Win that essentially once you've stripped out what you don't want, all that extraneous rubbish, start with the bottom of the plant. Start working on the primary structure down to the base of the plant, move your way up. Once you've done that, then you start working from the top down. The apex really should be the last thing you look at because it's what finishes off your tree. So I'm going to just do some really basic movements here. We're going to just get the primary structure in order. So I've pre-wired some of this already. So we're just going to go down here and I'm just going to really roughly get this in place. And I've got to figure out what I want to do with this tree. So a lot of the tree is talking to me at the moment and saying, I've got these twists and turns. So it's coming in here and it's twisting around. So coming in and twisting around. So why am I fighting it? So let's go with that. Let's go with that twist and turn, and let's let that tree accentuate what it wants to do. So I'm going to start letting these branchlets follow that turn. So just rip off some of this extra stuff. And all of a sudden I've got a nice little branchlet showing down here. Okay, let's move to this one here. This one is coming up and going this way. So we're going to allow that to happen. So there we go. Yes, I did crack the tree here, so we'll just cut that off. So as those who are watching Chris Zeppis would have seen, you've got to spend the time, especially this is some really old wood in here, to allow your tree to settle down. So I'm letting the tree settle as I bend it. So if we come in here now, I'll grab this here and we'll come around with the camera. We can see down here we've got some nice structure starting to occur in this part of the tree. If we come around, and I've allowed this to come out here. So you'll see here in the back of the tree, I've been quite sneaky. I've put a screw in here. That's to move this top branch. So my sort of philosophy on thing is, if you don't need to wire it, don't bother about it. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to grab some of this wire, and instead of wiring the branch, I'm just going to pull it down with a guy wire. So I've just got a bit of rubber here just to protect it. So I'm going to bring this particular branch down. So I want to get some of these branches out of the way so I can actually get access to this big part of the tree, because that's where I'm going to be spending some of my time today, in doing that V-cut. Who knows, I may fail at it, but at least it'll be an interesting show. So I'm just going to grab this. Now I'm going to bend this down. And tie that around that screw. So that's now around that particular screw. And I've managed to create a bend in that tree. So if I grab this here, I've come in, you'll see that I've managed to create a big bend in this part of the tree now. And I've done that without any wire. So moving back to it. Now I'm going to start working on these particular branches. I've got nothing on the back side of this tree, so I'm going to take advantage of the fact that this is moving out here and allow the tree to have something here. In addition to that, I spent some time with Don DeLuca in my early days when I was first starting out on Bonsai. Many of you know Don, he's probably a bit more twisted up than this particular tree. But I learned from him that you should always take advantage of what you've got, rather than just grabbing everything, cutting it off, or thinking that you... is that what I'm trying to explain? When you have a branch, you just don't do it like this. You've got to wire a branch like this, and you've got to give it depth. And then from there, the next ones have further depth in your tree. So this is what I'm trying to achieve here. I haven't just cut everything off. So everything at this stage is just, I'm doing pretty rough because I don't want to bore you to tears. So grab this down here. And a lot of this tree, I'm actually going to move in this direction. So just put some nice bends in here. If you've got any questions, feel free. I spent quite a bit of time in China, learnt things in China. I'm actually going to show you a few things I learnt in China during this session that I don't really see happening here in Australia. So hopefully these things will allow you to put some more aesthetics into your bonsai. So I'm just getting some of this wire down in nice and gently into place. So just nice and easy, don't snap it hopefully. Okay. I think this has got to come back here. Okay, so now we're getting some twists and turns in this tree. You can't really see it from where you are, but I'm going to take a bit of an angle. Hopefully you can see the twists and turns starting to happen. So I've got this coming around the tree, this one coming here, this one going here, this one going in several different directions, going out wide, and this coming around here. So we're starting to accentuate the character of the tree. I am doing this on the fly. There's no preparation involved. So, so let's get this down here. I'm going to bend this in towards the trunk a little. Okay. If you don't have anything, just rip stuff off like that. Adds character. Okay, I've deliberately left everything quite long at this stage. I don't really want to cut it off yet. I'll wait towards the end, and in addition to that, keeping this growth on will help that development of the tree. Like I said, a lot of the time I find in Australia we'll have this big, heavy tree, and the little branch will be like this, and that's the primary branch, and then you've got all these little branches going up, and we want to avoid that. So I am going to leave a lot of this branching on in the attempt to try and get this tree to develop and let these leaders run like sacrificial branches. This will allow the branches down here to thicken up. I've been very lucky with this tree, the fact that a lot of these branches are nice and solid in place. So you can see now I'm moving through the tree. I am going to just rip some stuff off because it's just easier to rip it off. There we go. We're starting to get some nice foliage pads in place. Okay, so if I turn this tree around, we can start to see things developing. So at the moment, we can start to see the twists and turns in the tree here. It's very hard to see these trees the way they're. But we can see the branching starting to occur here. So I've pulled down this branch over here, I've placed it over here for now. I've got this one here coming down nice and low over here, and we're starting to get the tree moving in a particular direction. Everything's twisting and turning, and I'm following those twists and turns around with this particular tree. Okay. 41 people, no questions so far. This is awesome. Okay. So we've got this here. I'm just going to move this over here. Let's get a nice big bend in this one. I want to sort of flatten out the top a little bit. I don't really want to have this big pointy top because the way I see it is if I have a big pointy top, all of a sudden that shows to me that this tree will be quite young. I want to show that the tree's quite old, so I'm going to flatten out the top a little bit. Okay, I just got to wire this branch in place so it sort of distracts. So just go around here. If you ever want to know anything about wiring, probably the best wire I've ever seen is Bonsai from China. I really recommend that you go on and watch some of his wiring skills. He's just an absolute legend when it comes to wiring. Also, somehow I've got to learn how he does this trick. He does a trick with his what do you call it? His wire cutters. Got to learn that. Looks really fancy. He sort of does this somehow like that. Okay, so we've got the trees now starting to form. So this tree is starting to get there. Okay, so now we're left with the challenge. Okay, so that was the challenge that I put up to myself. Why not do something a little bit different? So I'm going to have to move this back here. And for now, I'm going to just guy wire this across here. It's not to stay there. I've got my beautiful partner bringing me coffee. Say hello. Very camera shy. Babe, can you put the power on? Okay. Okay, let's move. We'll grab this branch here. We'll guy wire it out of place, and we'll start hitting on this big branch here. I've done V-cuts a lot throughout the last year. I will be honest and say I haven't done as big a V-cut as this. But when I was in China, I was looking at some of the V-cuts they'd done on their trees, and they were actually quite significant. So we're talking black pines as an example, the size of me. So black pine trunks this wide being cut, V-cuts out of them like this, and then going from this to being like this. So really amazing to see. So we're going to try and do this now. We're just going to move some of this out of the way. Okay, so usually with this type of tree, I would have wired all this in place for you and done it all. I just didn't have time because I was too busy watching Martin Walters in New Zealand and Chris Evans. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to find my tape, because this is going to be really dangerous. And I'm going to mark out where I want to cut this. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get my beautiful partner to grab this, and she can show you. Okay, so what we're attempting to do is this section here. We're going to V-cut it. Okay, so what I want is, I want the tree I want this branch to drop down further. Okay, because for me, just having this big straight section is an issue. When I have the rest of the tree doing this, why should this be straight? So let's get onto it. So what I'm going to do is mark where I think this tree should be cut. And then I'm going to use this as essentially a line to determine where to cut the tree. So we'll start off, go about there. So I'm figuring if I take out a section like this, and then I'll grab my pen, because I don't really want to write all over the tree. Okay, we're going to take out this section of the tree. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, and because I haven't done this with such a big tree before, I'm going to actually prep the tree first. So part of that involves me finding this, and we're going to start doing some drilling. Okay, so the screws like this, they're not going to hurt the tree. All they're going to allow me to do is brace this particular part of the tree. So you can see I'm putting some screws in. So once this is cut, I'm going to use these and put some wires in place, and this is what will actually hold the tree together in future. I will be honest, this is the first time I've ever done this. Must be a rock or something in there. Okay, so usually on a smaller tree, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd just be wiring it all in place, do the V-cut, and then just bend it down nice and easy. So obviously that's not going to really work, because, let's see, somehow I don't think this wire is going to be bending this tree. But the thing I will do in advance is I've got my bar here. So I've got my trusty bar. I am going to be placing this bar over the top here. Okay, so we're going to put this in position first. So this bar is going to be sitting up here bracing the tree for me. Okay, so next up, I did somewhere have some cable ties. Oh, here we go. Grab out the cable ties. And we're going to use some of these cable ties to brace the tree as well. you've got to remember that this part of the tree is still heavy up here. So this part of the tree here being heavy will mean it might cause the tree to drop. We keep saying the wrong thing. To drop and snap, and I don't want that. I want to see if I can brace this in place. So hence why I've put this bar at the top. This is just me thinking out loud. Okay, so that bar is now, we're getting that in place and starting to really get some strength in the top part of this tree. I'll put it out there, has anyone actually done a tree or V-cuts in a tree this big before? If you have, let me know. I'd be interested to hear. But I haven't seen really it done in Australia, but I have seen it done in China and Malaysia and that sort of thing. Some of the species over there just lend themselves to this type of work. They seem to grow really quickly. Okay, we got some questions, Alicia? What are they coming through? Okay, she's not talking, she's too shy. Okay, let's have a look here. Can you share the Aussie one on Australia? Some of the people on... Oh, sure. Let's do that. I'll get my partner. She'll share it now. Babe, can you go on that phone and just share onto Australian bonsai? We'll do that. What would you like more about Penjing than Japanese bonsai? For me, there's just something really different. It's the spacing, it's the character, it's having spacing in between trees. It's thinking of a holistic, landscape approach rather than this just bonsai triangle, which for me just doesn't work. With all my trees that I have in the backyard, I probably don't have time to show you, and you can look at my freestyle page. But it's all about character. If I can't find something unique in that tree, I don't want it. And that's unique away from what traditional people are doing. Okay, okay, please turn up your volumes. Maybe I just have to talk louder. How come it's not got any foliage? Sorry, we've already lost everything, mate. It's gone in Melbourne. So this had some foliage on it last week, and I stripped it off for the demo. So that should be all right. Who do you say? Fansuli, Fansuli, Fansuli. Look him up in China. He is an expert wire. If you want to look at I'll put it in, almost say it, the world's best wire, go to him. This is going to be a deciduous tree. It's not going to be a pine tree. Okay, so at the moment we're just getting everything primary structure. You can't essentially wire or design a deciduous tree in a pine look. Okay, so I'm just getting the primary structure in order. After that, we'll deal with everything going on. Okay, so and I'll tell you why he's asked that. So if you have a look, I've just essentially flattened everything out like a pine tree, and that's why he's asked that question. So yeah, I'm just trying to get everything flattened out and ready for me to work later. Okay, because the main part of this is trying to do this big cut, which hopefully it works. Okay, so moving on. So I'm just going to put a bit of wire around this, just to brace it in the top here, because I don't want to rely on one little piece of plastic. There's either going to be a lot of laughing going on in a second, or we're going to succeed. Okay, so just getting this wire in place here. I tried to do a little bit of work beforehand, but I got a bit sidetracked while I was watching everyone else's videos. Okay, so that's now secure. Secure this part of the tree. Okay, I think Alicia's getting that up online to Bonsai Australia again. Okay, so that part of the tree is now secure. So I'm going to take you around and have a look at what I've done, because I think this prep work is actually important. So you can see here I've secured this tree here, secured it here, and the attempt is to drop this branch down. We're going to be using, after it's done, I'm going to be using some tape to wire it up, so essentially to hold it in place, and I'm going to be using both wire and my cable ties. Okay, so let's get started. Fingers crossed. So I do have a nice sharp saw. So this is essentially a wood saw. I'm not using bonsai saw because obviously it's a little bit big for that. And in addition to that, I've got to make sure it's nice and sharp. The second you use tools that aren't sharp, the join where the cut is created won't callus up very good and join. Okay, I'm imagining this tree will take a couple of years to really set in place if this works. If not, I'm going to completely change the style of the tree. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go around the back of the tree and do this. But it doesn't help when you go through the screw. I'm just going to take that one out. Just going to get rid of some of this tape. This is just getting annoying. It's just more to show you what's going on. Okay. Okay, so depending where this cut ends up, so whether it ends up on an angle or whether it's straight under or backwards will depend how that branch is going to curve. So now is the point where I decide where is this tree going to curve. So I can see so far, if I bring this around here, I've got the saw through here. So it's now getting there. I'm going to come in the other side here to drop this branch. So what I want to do also, if we have a look at the top here, it's actually quite bendy this way, but I actually want to exaggerate that a little bit. So I'm going to allow the tree to bend a little bit this towards us. So I'll keep going. And all I do to get that tree to bend towards us a little bit is slightly change the angle of the saw, going up a bit. Oop, bending the saw. Okay, so let's have a look. I'll get the marker out. I'll actually mark this tree so you can see it better on the camera. And then I'll show you what I've done so far. Okay, let's go have a look here. Hello everyone, let us know where you're from. So as we can see here, I've cut to this point. So that means I've got about this much, about this much bark left on there to allow for future growth. So in here, hopefully you can see I've cut a little bit higher because I'm actually going to bring this branch down here because we're going to accentuate as if this tree's really been crushed on by a tree or something. Okay, getting back to it. Okay, next one is to decide how much I want to drop this branch. If I want to drop it a lot, I cut wide. If I want to drop a little bit, go a little bit. So I'm going to imagine that this tree here only just comes, this drops down to about here. So I'm actually going to only cut about this much out. The other thing to remember is depending on how much you bend it will determine whether you break the branch or not. So the bigger you go, the potential to break it is there, and you need to create bracing in the tree. And as you see, at the moment I don't have the bracing. But prior to doing this, we're going to put that bracing in place. Okay. So let's take about here. And this might be a 2-time event. I might decide I want to do it again. Here goes nothing. Okay, so I've joined up on this backside, nearly. So now to do the front. Alicia, can you have a look at the screen? There's a question on there. I'll stop. She's very camera shy at the moment. It's going to be, it's still the same question. Don't worry about it.
Baby.
Oh, sorry. I'm not seeing what's going on. Hey, Scotty. Yeah, I've never done it on an elm, but we're going to see what happens. Hence, it's going to be an exciting demo.
A new comment. Still got a few.
Still a few? What else is there, Alicia? No. She's like, no way, I'm not saying what's on there. Turn around. Okay, what's on here? Okay, Coffs Harbour, yes. Hey Lynn and Kay, how you going? New Zealand, good to see New Zealand. Missed the part about wire wrapped around either the end of the cut. Could you explain that again? Sure. Okay, let's go around the back of the tree. So essentially I'm just doing this so I don't break the tree. So you can see here, I've got my car, jack thing in here. I've got some wire here and here. Hopefully you can see that all right. So that's essentially just to brace the tree. So it's just to brace this section in here because it is going to be heavy and it's going to drop at a time that I don't want it to. And I'd rather it dropped when I allow it to. So if it just dropped all of a sudden and went crack, I'll lose the branch. So it's only there as a bracing at this point in time. So we're getting close. So I just got to keep checking. And the last thing I want to do is lose this. So it's getting very close now to being right. Okay. Okay, that's very close now. Okay, so that's okay. If we come around, Alicia, can you grab the? She'll grab this, and we'll go and have a look. So if you want to come nice and close here, we can see this piece here. It's quite wobbly at this time. So what I'm going to try and do is get rid of it. There we go, just popped out there. So if we come round, you can see that's now gone. We also see up in there, there's a little bit of wood. We want to try and get rid of all that wood from in there, because that will prevent it from bending, and it will actually cause it to crack. So just going in and getting rid of that wood. Okay, sweet. Okay, now I'm just going to finish it off. Get it nice and clean in there. So that way, when I bend it, I've got enough room for that bend to occur. Okay, so we're pretty much there. So we can see a nice clean cut. Okay, we haven't busted the tree up yet. Okay, so next part is I actually get rid of all these clips, all these tie downs. Okay, tie downs are gone. Okay, so I've got to brace this part of the tree. You can already see that it's moving. We're just going to take our time with this one. I don't want to rush it. Nice. Okay, just get rid of this last brace. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go a little bit deeper into that wood. So we can now see that starting to come down. And like I said, this might be a gradual process over a period of time. We heard a little bit of a crack there, but that's alright. And we've got that in place. Okay, next we need to grab is these ties, and to reinforce this in place. Just getting Alicia's hands here. Yep, pull tight. Carpenter. I wish. Okay, now we've got that in place. I'm just going to seal it off and make sure everything is lined up. So I'm actually going to seal the entire area, even though there's no problem with the top here. I'm just going to seal it anyway, just to provide some strength in the tree. Okay. This particular sealant I got from my teacher Win. We'll worry about that bottom after. So this rubberized sealant will actually go darker as the tree ages. Yeah, we'll come and have a look at this. Oh, it's nice. So we can see instead of this branch being up here now, we've re-angled the branch down here. So hopefully I've got a bit more character where I actually want it. Okay. Next I'm going to use these points here. Get a nice tight firm grip on this tree. And then I'm going to use some wire. So we're going to wire this back. We're going to brace it to the back end of the tree. So I've got some nice anchoring points in some branching behind the tree. So I'm just going to use that branching behind the tree to anchor it in place, because I've actually run out of screws. Otherwise I'd just put screws near the base of the tree and anchor it just into those screws, which I might do at a later date anyway. So I've got a screw back here, but I'll use this particular part. So the last thing you want is to be able to walk past one of these trees, bump the tree, and then just snap the whole branch off. I have done it before on a few of my hawthorns, and actually pushed the branch into my walk corridor. So it's something I want to try and avoid. Okay, so we've got that in place now. So I tend to use this instead of raffia lately. I find it really good. So I'm going to, now I've sort of started to brace it in position. I'll put one more brace and then I'm going to wrap it. So I'm going to brace it in 2 spots. I'm going to brace it from the top here. Sorry for getting in the way. So I brace it at the top here. So that's braced there. And just come round. Okay, so now that's all braced in there, I can start working on this part of the tree and healing that off. So I'm going to now remove these ones here and start looking after this tree. So we're going to grab this, just like raffia, just use this tape. I actually have to get rid of this back one, it's in the way. If you've got any questions, feel free to yell out. I'm going to do a lot of this later on, so I'm just going to do a basic to show you. You want to make sure whenever you're putting this around a tree that you actually spend the time to overlap it when you're bracing this in place to hold the tree. For me, this is just to make sure I'm not walking past and snapping it, and also so to make sure the area stays moist. If it's moist, you'll probably find, well, for myself, I would say that the tree tends to heal a little bit better. So I'm just going to do this really rough for now, and I'll come back after the demo's over and I'll do this properly. But as you can see, I'm essentially doing this in reverse. Most people do it the other way around, but I've got to get this V cut in order first. Okay, so we've got that in place. Okay, so next up I'm going to put the clip ties back in place because I want to keep that tree nice and secure. It's actually pulling, bending the screws. That's how tight I'm trying to get it. Okay, get this bottom one done. clip ties don't really like holding in place. Okay, so they're nice and tight. I'm going to just secure the rest of the tree in place. Okay, so now to secure the tree, I'm actually going to use some thicker wire. A lot of the time, I do tend to use, sorry, I should show my face. I tend to use smaller gauge wire for my guy wires, but considering the potential of me being quite clumsy at times when I'm in my backyard, and also I'm in a rental at the moment, and I'll be moving house hopefully at some point in time, I want to make sure this is nice and secure. So I'm going to use a heavy gauge wire to do my guy wires. So first guy wire I'm going to do is essentially around this large one here. And I'm going to pull it back to this branch here. Let's go to that one. Okay. So easiest way. Just going to do this. Take it through the back here. Not too fussed about the inside here, but I am fussed about here. So what we're going to do is grab a piece of that rubber, and I'm going to cut a little piece of rubber so I can protect that branch, because the last thing I want is it to dig in, because over time I'm going to find that that is going to damage that tree. Hey, thanks John. It was a bit risky, but I think it was worth it. And I think maybe in the future I can get it down next time around once it's healed, maybe one more. Okay, so we're going to put this in behind here, and then we're going to pull this in closer, because I want to get this tree nice and close, and I want to hold that in place. Yep. Lost my rubber. You shouldn't lose your rubber. Okay, got that nice and tight there. I do have a whole stash of tools somewhere, but I'm missing my pliers. So compromise instead. So we're going to grab this, tighten this up. Now this is very important for when you're doing anything big like this, to make sure that you're getting a nice, tight and secure branch here, because you want to make sure that that branch is being held in place really well, and you can find that you can use this. But if I pull one side too much right now, I'm just going to completely strip it and break it, and it's going to fall off. So I've got to take my time. I've got to do it in a balance. So I'm going to go on the back side of the tree now. I'm going to do the same thing with the back end of the tree. So I'm grabbing this, coming around, and we're going to go around to the back of the tree. It's going to look a little bit ugly for now, but it's better to look a little bit ugly with the big guy wires than lose this big branch that I've essentially cut away. So I'm going to go to this back end corner. Babe, can you pass us those cutters on the back? Yep. Thank you. Okay, I'm just securing it around the back here. Now this one here is actually going to pull the branch. Remember, we've got the cut. It's going to pull the branch down, so it's going to actually close that cut now. So, Johan, when are you on next? Got to watch his demo. Okay, we're getting that nice and secure now. Okay. So you can see these two wires here being held in place. You see they're quite loose at the moment. Easy fix. So I'm just going to grab a Dremel tool, come in here, and I'm just going to start twisting this guy wire, as per normal with most guy wires, give it a bit of a twist, and I'll actually start tensing this up. I want to be careful that I don't tense it too much. If I tense it too much, like I said, it's going to snap. So that's nice there. And then I'm going to do the same with this one up top. Actually, this one at the top's pretty good. So this is nice and secure now. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so the next part of what I want to do is I want to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use power tool. Okay, so next, you can see in here, I've got this triple part here. I'm actually going to power tool this one, this one here, but I'm not going to take it all the way. So get ready for some hardcore stuff about to happen. So, okay, it's been a while since I've used one of these. Very dangerous. Be careful how you're using them. Grab this. Babe, can you have a look where I put one of these? It's always, during demos, tend to lose things. But, okay, can't find that. That's alright. We're gonna go to trusty little die grinder. So I actually don't want this. So I'm going to just strip it away. That's what I might do. As you can tell, this has all been done on the fly. Get rid of all this. Do this later, but essentially just strip all this bark off. It's much easier. I'm just going to do the front section so you can see aesthetically what will happen in the future. So this won't stay pointing out. I'm creating some dead wood essentially to help show the age of this tree. I'm not going to get rid of it all now because pretty much boring watching someone just do some carving during a demo where you don't really get to see much unless you've got the skills of Mr. Will Badley. Okay, so we're just getting rid of some of this wood. Okay, so we can see some dead wood happening at the top here. There is some actual dead wood in here. Got to remember with elms, you don't have a lot of this. You tend to get a lot of folding happening. So if we have a look closer in this tree, you'll see a lot of this folding starting to occur. And all your hollows or gins, we need to make sure that starts to happen. So in order for that to happen, we've got to make sure we've got really clean cuts, and that's where we get out the scalpel. So I'm going to get my partner there to join in and carry the camera, and I'm going to show you how to do this. And then I'm going to show you another trick I learned to get your trees to the next level. So baby, if you come around this side. So I want to use the scalpel, or in this case this, and then cut where you want the tree. So for myself here, nice clean cuts. You can see there, I've cut to that spot there. And that way you'll get the better folding happening with your tree. So if we get in here, you can see now we've got a nice clean cut in here. It's these little things that really matter when it comes to your tree healing. So I've got a nice clean cut here. You can see here I've used the scalpel. The cambium will be able to roll over really effectively. So moving on, I'm going to show you something different. Come around this way. Okay, I learnt this when I was in Malaysia. I was visiting one of the Malaysian people over there, and he showed me something that I haven't seen really in Australia, and I want to share with you, so the people in Australia and elsewhere, because obviously this is worldwide, but I've seen a lot of Australians on board here. I want to show you how to make your tree look a little bit older. Unfortunately, it does take time. It's not going to just happen overnight. Okay, so if Alicia, you come in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some character. So I can see here, all this bark is twisted, and you can see these turns in here. But what I'm going to do is slightly accentuate this. So I want to come in here, follow this around, so I've got a nice deep cut there. And then on the other side, okay, so I've created a deep cut on either side. Now what I'm going to do is lift it. You can see I've gone there right to the heartwood. So the question is, why the hell did you just cut your tree? Why the hell did you just put a big cut in the tree where it was perfectly fine? The answer to that is essentially it's going to create some striations. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you out my backyard. So we're going to go for a walk. I'm going to need my phone for this one. I'm going to show you why I've done this. So we'll go out the backyard. You come through my house. Say hello, this is my house. Okay, we're going to the backyard. We're going to go see another tree. So we'll go and see Acer Vajurian. I did this too last year. Okay, so this is an Acer that I've got here. Hopefully we can find it because I've turned the tree around. Oh, here we go. So you can see here, I created these cuts. All in here. And this is only last year, and I created some little cuts all up here through here. And all of a sudden, you're seeing the bark starting to, essentially the cambium's rolling over. And I'm starting to get a little bit more character in the tree. It's bringing a little bit of age on. And that's what I'm trying to achieve by doing this. So I'm going to go over the tree in various places and strategically cut the tree and to provide a little bit more age. Now, I'm going to show you something else you can do. I unfortunately can't do it on this tree. Actually, let's go out the backyard. I'll show you on another tree because I can't do it with this tree. So this is where you have the potential to show more age. So we'll go out the backyard because this tree I haven't pulled out of the pot yet. We'll find, let's go back to the trident. Well, let's take this elm for example. I've got an elm here. So what we can do is create a striation like this, a nice deep cut. So I've created a nice deep, where are we? Okay. So nice deep cut. Once that cut made, you go in and just lift it up. And lift it up from both sides. And all of a sudden in time, that's going to lift and it's going to create more age to that. So I'm going to look over here. This is the trident. You can see last year I started to do it here. You can see these little cuts in here, and already I'm getting some fissuring in the bark, and I'm getting some of the areas lift up. So that's essentially why I'm doing this. Is I want to create age to the tree. Okay, let's go back to the elm. Okay, I'm mindful that there's a whole lot of other demos going on at the moment, so I want to try and get this done ASAP. Okay, so I've pulled this branch down. For those just joining in now, I know some people coming. Essentially, I've done a V cut here. Branch used to be up here, and I've actually dropped it down in time. I actually want to see if I can bring this down here. It's just not going to happen today. This is a slow process. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to start to work on this tree. This part of the tree, I'm just going to let go. I want it to grow really healthy. If I wire it, it's going to prevent that from happening. So for now, with this particular demo, I'm just going to leave it alone so it can grow. So now we're going to work for the rest of the tree. Okay, so now we're starting to look at providing some structure for this tree. So I've previously put essentially some wiring in place, some primary wires. And now I'm going to start looking at doing the rest of the tree. And I want to make sure that I'm still following the design principle that I had, was essentially allowing this tree to accentuate these twists and turns. So if I come around this side, take away some more branches, gets a little bit crowded. Now we can also get rid of this guy wire we had before. Don't need it anymore. Okay, just getting some structure in here. So the question came in before, am I going to style it like a pine? The answer to that is hopefully no, it's not a pine. I am going to style it to a deciduous tree. You can start to see that now. I'm starting to get, all I've done, flattening things out, I'm starting to bring the tree up. Let it show some character. And I'm going to try and use as little wire as possible. So using little wire, it's about balancing the tree where you think it should be. So I'm actually going to cut off. Don't worry, they're really crappy ones. Don't use your good ones. Aim for this is essentially I want to get some better let's see, some tertiary branching in here. Thanks, Alicia. Okay, so we're starting to get some branching going. Okay, better just sit back and have a look at the tree so I can see what's going on. So I'm trying to make sure I accentuate the fact that this tree has nice curves, but then I don't take away from the character. So if we come around here, you can start to see the tree taking effect. Essentially got front of the tree in here. I don't want to turn around too much. And what I might do is I'll just wire a tiny little bit of this to show you what's going to happen next. Okay, so I'm going to wire 2 sections of this down. Here just using some 6mm wire. Okay, just going to do this just so you can see the tree because it's going to look pretty crappy unless I bring this. So if it's a demo, I might as well do it rather than doing it halfway there. So I'm just going to wire these last pieces in position for you. Okay, would you be able to grab the wire cutters? It's great when your girlfriend actually knows what the tools are, because I am losing them. They'll do. Yep. Just getting these in place now. I'm just using some heavier wire on these two sets of branches. It's always important when you're doing wiring to make sure you lock your wire in place. For those people who are not sure what locking is, I'll show you in a second. Because I might as well just double up on this just to get a better bend. Can you pass those cutters, babe? So we're going to show you locking your wire now. Okay? So I'll just get this. At least you'll be able to grab the camera. Okay, locking your wires in place. Okay, so what I'm going to do, come around this tree here. So I'm coming over this branch here, baby, if you want to come around this side here. And what I'm doing is I'm going closest on this side here. And then I'm going to come, instead of going straight back to this wire here, I'm actually going to come inside onto this wire. So when I come, instead of going, for example, like this, I'm actually going to come close to this wire here. So I'm now locking this into place here. So it's essentially providing double the strength on this first part of the branch. So then we go and just continue wiring as per normal. Okay. Okay, there we go. Nearly done. Not looking for a perfect tree at this point in time. I'm looking for a tree that's got the primary branch structure I want. Okay. If you've got any questions, throw them up. Anything you want to know about China or getting across to China or Malaysia, opportunities, just let me know and I'll see if I can share some of my experience. So we're just going to create a bend in here. Little cracks are fine, don't stress about those. Okay, so we got a lot happening in here. So I'm just going to get rid of this here. I'm going to leave this one. I'm going to let this grow and thicken up, so I'm not too stressed about that. Okay, going around the back of the tree now. Just going to quickly get this in order, and then we're pretty much close to getting the primary product for this tree. Okay. It's always good. Well, I used to do bonsai a lot in the past before I started learning, and I always used to use finer gauge wire than I should, and I've since learned to use heavier gauge wire for a lot of my trees. Okay. It's what you call speed wiring. Not the best wiring, but it does the job. Okay, getting close. This tree is it's a little bit hard to tell the way it is at the moment, but we're getting close to getting there. Just going to wire a few more things in place. Then hopefully the tree will start to take effect. This tree here will start to come into its own once, essentially in its primary state. Once it starts getting some green on it, once that green starts to get out there, then from there it's really about filling in the ramification of the tree, so that way this tree can start to shine both once it's in leaf, but also when it's out of leaf. I mean, at the moment, given the fact that this is a newly dug tree, it doesn't really have a lot of character at this point in time that will, you look at the tree and go, wow, that's a great deciduous tree naked. At this stage, there's not a lot happening. We're just getting the primary branches in order for the future for this particular tree. Okay, so I actually have to come back and have a look at these because I haven't actually looked at the tree yet. So you have to excuse me. I'm deliberately leaving a few of these branches on the tree rather than getting rid of everything, because I figure it's better to have more on this tree in the initial stages of growth, and that way I can start to thicken the tree up a lot better. Okay, a few more touches. I've got to say thank you for everyone sticking around. I know that sometimes with people blabbering on during the demo it can get quite boring. I really appreciate you guys sticking around. Nothing worse than giving a demo and having a zero counter on there. Okay. So I'm going for a full 3D look on this tree. It looks pretty messy at the moment, but once I get some pads in place, you'll actually start to gain the character I want. So we can see we've got quite a broad tree. We can see if you think about the whole triangle shape thing, you can sort of see we've got a little bit of a triangle happening in here and coming down here. But I'm trying to create, I guess, a 3 or 4 dimensional triangle way. It's like a big curved triangle that's coming around the tree like this. So I'm going to take you a little bit of a journey around the tree now. It's a little bit hard to see. We've got some branching down here. Trying to accentuate this branching. It's young, vigorous branching, but it has been withheld back because it's under the foliage of the rest of the tree. So it's going to be quite stunted, and hence why it's always going to stay fairly small. There is a 3-bar branching here. In the future I'll get rid of that, but there's no point in just deleting it off the tree. Down here we've got some branching starting to occur down in here. I'll just reposition this. And then if we go around the tree, we can see the branching. Got to remember as well, this big branch that I did V-cut today is going to drop a little bit more in the future. This is only stage 1. It is going to come down a little bit harder. So if we come around the tree, we can see a whole 3-dimensional look at this tree starting to occur. If you have a look in here, you never know, this might be a front in here. Have a look at that. Beautiful tree right in there. So let's have a look at this. So I did create a 3-dimensional tree. I'm not creating a 2-dimensional tree. So we've got this tree here. If I reposition this, do you want to pull that brick out? We're getting there. Okay, there we go. Believe it or not, that's my final tree. So this branch here will come down even more it will actually drop down here. So it's what you call playing funny buggers. But this is my final tree down here. At this point in time, it may change in the future. I'm trying to get it so I can leave it there. There we go. So I'll just finish off the final touches of this. If I can find my cutters. Yep, here we go. Final touches of the tree. Let's work on this now. It's always good to work. I'm actually working right now for the finishing touches on this tree from the live feed, because you've got to think about what this tree is going to look like in a photo. So I'm going to get rid of, just cut that short for now. Okay, this little branch down the back is going to fill this little void down here. Get rid of some of this in the back. And all of a sudden we've got this whole big sweeping tree going on. So those people before that didn't stick around, didn't get to see the end tree, but hopefully now can start to see what was happening in this tree. Initially I thought that front would be the best front, but after spending a bit of time with the tree, and I'll be honest, it's spending a little bit of time with the tree now, I figure this is the best front. Okay, once this drops down, okay, it'll drop down here. Look at the twists and turns happening in this tree now. We've got a lot more character starting with the tree. So just getting the final touches. And this will obviously take a little bit more time. We can start to see this tree developing into the tree we want. A little bit more. And there you go. Using the live feed to get all these branches in place. There we go. That's my tree. Hopefully you like the demo. There's obviously a lot more to do on this tree, but I'll probably end up boring you to tears. So thank you very much. Black Scissors, get involved. Been having a great time. Thanks, mate. Catch you later.